Sarah Potter, welcome to the Witch Wave.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so thrilled that you're here. And let's do a full disclosure.
Yes.
We are dear friends. We, in the past, have been coven mates.
Yes.
We have a deep, beloved connection. And I'm so happy to get to talk to you in this capacity. But we've seen some stuff together, haven't we?
That's true. Yes.
I know we don't have to disclose all of it,
No.
but I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for coming to the studio today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted.
Yay. So, Sarah, we are here to talk about your new book, Sober Magic, using the tarot and ritual in your journey away from drinking. This is your second time on the Witch Wave, so I should have said welcome back. But this conversation is going to be really different than the one we had earlier. This book is so personal. It's so beautiful, Sarah. And I'm just so proud of you. I hope that's not like a weird thing to say because we're peers. But I really feel like with this book, you have opened your door and said, hey, I've been through some stuff and here are some things that have helped me. And I'm just so moved by it. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, that feels really good to hear. It is not easy to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I feel like how can we expect anyone else to be vulnerable if we don't take the opportunities to do the same?
Yes.
And I think there's so much showing us to maybe pretend like everything is totally great. We just arrived here in this beautifully formed way.
Right.
And I certainly did not.
Right. We're supposed to be like together all the time and just espouse about our success and how we got here. And in fact, we're all hot messes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, completely. So
yeah, right?
let's just admit it.
Exactly.
And it's okay.
Exactly. We all have our moments and we've all walked through darkness. And this book, it's a very light, bright, beautiful book. It's so uplifting. It's so helpful. And there is definitely darkness that you walk us through in the book too. So why don't we just start at the beginning? What made you decide to write about your sobriety journey and through the lens of tarot and witchcraft?
Well, I feel like in some ways it was inevitable, but it was just when was I going to step into that and say yes and truly embark on another spiral of the fool's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really when it hit me, which feels like literally and metaphorically, I write about in the introduction, which is when I black out at a music venue and have this resonance of having the same experience of blacking out in a nightclub, which I did many times when I was drinking, but having this different experience of being in a different place. And when that happened, I had about 5.5 years of recovery. And it really hit me like how similar the experience was, yet totally different. And why have I been able to stay sober this long? Because this isn't my first round of sobriety. I've been, I think relapse is part of recovery, and it's been a long journey for me. And what I realized was it's my spiritual practice. I think there's a lot that goes into it. It's the willingness, it's the readiness, it's the ability to ask for help. But I was like, oh, it's being a witch. It's tarot and witchcraft that has helped me stay sober. And I was like, this is my book. And I was like, here it is.
Yes. And here it is. And it is such a masterful book, Sarah. I think it's going to help so many people. I think it's going to save so many lives, like truly. And it feels like you're really talking about how tarot and witchcraft and 12-step have saved your life quite literally. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. It's those three elements. That's why I feel like everything good I have in my life is because of tarot, witchcraft, and the 12 steps. And honestly, I feel like 12 steps is such a beautiful framework for the human experience. Something that I really I thought everyone else knew how to live life and how to do life. And I think somehow I thought I wasn't given the handbook.
Right.
And I really do believe like 12 steps is the handbook. And there's something in there for everyone. It shows us how to be accountable, how to reflect, how to own our part, how to keep our side of the street clean, and how to be a good member of our community, which I think that no matter what you're facing, being a human is challenging. And there is a structure there that really provides support. And I wanted to bring that in because when I started looking at, I was like, how has no one placed the Fool's Journey of Tarot next to 12 steps? And because it's so clear to me, and I felt like such a fool in many aspects of life. And I was like, this is incredible. It's so inspiring. And it just made so much sense. And I wanted to like welcome everyone else into that and invite them into this like aha moment of excitement and weave it all together through a pagan lens, which to me feels so welcoming and inclusive because that is my spiritual path. And I do feel that there are so many ways that change is hard. And I understand the fear that comes up. And there are so many ways I think our brains try to protect us. And there are ways that maybe entering into a 12-step meeting feels like that's not for me. And sometimes it isn't. But if we can approach it from another angle, and I do feel like things feel a little less scary if it's language we understand, if it's belief systems we adhere to, if it feels open to how we move through the world. So I wanted to bring that in because that felt so important to me. And I know what it's like to feel not welcome or that's not for me or not yet. And
Yes.
no, now it is.
Yes. I love it so much. And there's so much I want to respond to. First, I'll say I have a number of people in my life who've been through 12-step or who are in some of those programs. And I have learned so much about myself and have gained tools as someone who I have plenty of my own struggles, believe me. Addiction to substance and certain behaviors, that's not my fate in this life. I definitely have some behaviors that are not awesome. And yet, the people in my life who are in 12-step and who have shared some of their experiences with me and who have shared the 12 steps with me have helped me become a better human. Like, I've learned skills. When I read this book, I gained reminders and also new skills and techniques, to your point, just for navigating the world and navigating my own shadow and darkness. So this book really is for everybody, not just folks who are on a sobriety journey. And yet, of course, I think for those who are walking that path, you offer this really fresh way of engaging with the work through this magical lens. So let's talk about the Fool, where we begin. Actually, before we do that, Sarah, can you also just talk about how you've organized the book? Because it is going through the 12 steps, but you kind of map the cards or the major arcana onto the 12 steps, right?
Yes. So I broke down the 12 steps and tried to look at them through paganism as well as tarot, and then paired each step with cards in order.
Yes.
And then bringing in the minor arcanas to kind of flesh out all of the details and bring it into the everyday as well.
It's so smart, Sarah. It's so good. It also helped me understand tarot better because you and I have talked about this. You're such an expert of tarot.
Oh.
And for those who aren't familiar with Sarah's tarot work, like, first of all, where have you been? And second of all, like, a lot of people know you as a tarot expert, a tarot reader, you're many other things as well. But I loved engaging with the tarot through the lens of sobriety or through the lens of trying to wrestle a demon and come out the other side of it. I just thought it was so, so beautiful. So let's begin with the Fool.
I love that card.
Tell me why.
I just think that it's so lovely to be a fool, to not know what you're about to get into. And yes, that could be so scary. And I think about how Pixie illustrated the Fool card, and this figure is there, the dog is there, there's a cliff, and we can't see what's on the other side of the cliff. And I think that's so hard for us as humans. We always want to know.
Yes.
It's probably why I have a job.
Yes.
But I really, spending time with that card and expanding beyond the framework, I like to think about, well, what's down there? Is it even that far? It could be jagged rocks, but what if it's like a bubble bath or like fluffy pillows or something really lovely, and you just don't know? And I think about, too, with the Fool, sometimes because we don't know any different, we don't know any better, that kind of like naive nature really leads us onto an adventure that is better than we could have even imagined. Right?
Yes. It's so interesting because I remember when I was first learning tarot, which, I was probably 12 or 13.
Yes.
And I thought the Fool was like an idiot, right? I think a lot of people have that misconception about this card before they dive deep with tarot, and then quickly realize, oh, no. The Fool is like an initiate. Yes. They are just beginning this path of mystery. And so it's a real like leap of faith card, to your point, right? You're leaping into the unknown. You're leaping into mystery. And it seems like for you, starting your sobriety journey felt like that, right?
Absolutely. It was like, I think you can always get lower in the rock bottom, but I didn't want to. And it was just like, I need to go up. I need to get out of here. And it felt like embarking upon this fool's journey was the only option. And I know for me, being in that place, I couldn't imagine not being in there. But embarking on this journey, being a fool, saying yes, taking the first step, going off that cliff, it led me into this next maybe season of life that was beyond what I could have imagined or dreamed possible. Even just, I think, getting myself to the edge of the cliff had felt almost impossible.
Yeah.
Got there.
Yes.
And it was just like the surrender that came through. And it's just like, it's time to go.
Yes.
Take that leap.
Exactly. So, Sarah, I don't want to make you go through the entire book because I want everyone to read it. But by way of introduction, or just by like way of example, I would love for you to talk about, let's say, step 2. What happens in step 2? This is the step that's paired with the Magician card and the High Priestess card. So what are you delving into in this book for step 2?
Okay, so when I go through the steps, I also share an anecdote from my life that was going on in this first year of sobriety to try to show how I was moving through that step in life and help readers see how we can embody the energy of that step. So the Magician and the High Priestess are guiding us to build a sobriety altar. Because this is an act of devotion to yourself. And so let's make it feel as important as it is. And I think having a dedicated space that you can go to be with your thoughts, stillness isn't easy. But I think if we find the ways to support ourselves, to create some ease in that, always good.
Yes.
And so this is what I was doing myself as I was getting sober. And I built this altar to my sobriety. And I had some crystals that helped me feel connected to that. I had little trinkets and mementos. I had images of what a sober life meant to me and represented and what I was dreaming of and yearning for. And that was very motivating in helping me get to that altar and be there and connect to myself, to the deities that were guiding me. And I think that it's just, I still have a sobriety altar too. And I still change it up and shift it and spend time there. And I think just creating a space that's yours where you can really think about what you're doing here and why and be intentional, I think is so supportive to our recovery.
I lit up when I read that section of your book because I found that making physical altars has absolutely elevated my own magical practice. I have a book altar when I'm writing a book, and certain altars to certain deities. I love the idea of a sobriety altar. And if you don't mind disclosing, I mean, you certainly do so in the book, some of the gemstones and goddesses that you really connected to in your own journey. It might be useful for people who might want to build their own sobriety altar but don't know where to begin.
Oh, I would love to share. So I think every sobriety altar would benefit from some rose quartz, my favorite crystal. Inspired my hair.
It's so beautiful.
And I love rose quartz because it brings us back to that connection to ourselves. It always makes me think of the Ace of Cups, like love, compassion, just sweetness.
Yes.
And just bringing that in, because I think self-love is so essential, as well as self-compassion, to a sobriety journey. So having some rose quartz, amethyst, also an essential. Amethyst.
My birthstone.
So good. Well, amethyst, actually, there is this lore that sailors would keep amethyst in their pockets when they were out to sea to help them be sober.
I love that.
Fun?
Yes, this is tickling something in my brain too, and I can't remember the exact mythology, but I'm pretty sure that amethyst is supposed to have some connection to this Greek myth about wine. And I think the nymph amethyst or the goddess amethyst, there's something there about how she is connected to wine in a way that helps keep you sober as well. Like it roots back a long time is my point. And I'm sorry, I don't know the exact story, but Google it. You'll see.
Ooh,
yes.
I love that.
Yes.
So cool. So I feel like having that, I think it's nice too to think about that connection of how amethyst has been supportive throughout time.
Yes.
And it's going to support you as well.
Yes.
And having some amethyst, I think, is just a total essential for the sobriety altar. I feel like get a good candle.
Always.
We always need a good candle.
Of course.
I never need an excuse to buy another candle.
Same.
So, and I feel like it depends on what you're working with, because that's the thing too, is I feel like the sobriety altar is meant to grow and shift and evolve with you as your journey does as well. So if we are just starting out, I think it's lovely to have pink candles, bring in that self-love and compassion we were talking about with rose quartz. I think white for a little clarity, new beginnings, this fresh start, and a little green to nurture. I mean, I like to load up the candles, so don't let me stop you.
I love that you're going to color as well, because I always call you the Rainbow Witch, because you are such an expert in color magic. We talked about that last time you were here. You always dress so intentionally with color, and so I was so happy that color magic is part of this book.
How could we not?
Of course.
We have to.
Of course.
So,
and can I remind you as well that at some point in the book, you write about the Temperance card. And not only in the Temperance card section, and I forget what step that is, but you just talk about that card as being very instrumental in your sobriety journey too. So did you have that card literally on the altar?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
And why?
Well, I think that card really does bring to mind that moderation and balance, which I feel like can get lost in addiction, of course, and that ideal. And I just find that figure to be so angelic.
Yes.
So supportive, so calm. I feel like whenever we see water in tarot, it's soothing. It's hearkening to our emotional state. And the water in that card, I think, is really so lovely. And to me, it has such motion to it. It reminds me of the passing of time. And I think that Temperance is such a beautiful guide in sobriety. And just, it's hard to pick one card that really captures the essence of it. But that was the card that really came out for me. I was pulling it constantly. It wanted to be seen. It wanted to be felt. And I embraced its guidance. So having that card there, and then depending on what else was going on, I would always put a second card to kind of support whether it's going through the steps or just an aspect that I found was challenging and some sort of energetic guidance that could guide me. So I invite you to pull some cards from your favorite tarot deck, put that on the altar, but I think Temperance should be one as a lovely ideal of balance.
So beautiful. You also write about how giving offerings to your deities and guides is something that is traditionally encouraged on an altar, but that in your case, you don't leave wine on your altar. And it seemed so obvious to me, but I was like, of course, like, or it should have been obvious to me, but I didn't think about that because I use wine and alcohol as offerings sometimes to my different deities. But of course, if you have a sobriety altar, you might not want to do that. So what do you do instead?
Well, and people write to me about that all the time. And I do feel like people worry that they're not going to get it right.
Yes.
Or they're going to offend someone, offend their deity. And I believe in benevolence and compassion and understanding. And I don't believe that any sort of guide wants you to put yourself into temptation or harm yourself in any way for their good. And I don't think that anyone would expect that. So there's not wine on my altar, but I always have a glass of water and
Perfect.
other offerings and gifts. But I don't think that you need to, I know you don't need to push yourself in order to
appease the gods.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
you don't have to jeopardize yourself and your
Absolutely.
well-being.
Yes.
Exactly. Now, something that comes up a lot when people are talking about 12-step and their resistance to it, I know a lot of folks are turned off by this idea of a higher power, or they're turned off by the spiritual language, or they're turned off by the idea of God, like it feels too Christian for them. And I thought it was so wonderful how you reframed this in the book, and you basically say something to the effect of it doesn't really matter what the higher power is, and in fact you can choose a deity or even someone you really admire to give your offerings to, or to aspire to be like, or to find inspiration from. You talk about your connection to Lilith, for example. Like your higher power is Lilith during your sobriety journey, which of course I loved. Can you talk about how you found your way to her in sobriety?
Well, I feel like when you're open to these energies, they're going to make their presence known. And Lilith was appearing to me constantly. There were so many times in my life that I was really struggling with sobriety, and Lilith was kind of peeking around a corner, just reminding me she was there.
Yes.
Whether or not I wanted to engage with her was up to me. And I really liken the aspect of Lilith that came through to me in my sobriety journey as I thought of her as this truly wild, demonic party girl who was so defiant and powerful and in this wildness that I think part of me would numb out and drink to connect to my own wildness in a way. And here was this spirit who embodied it so easily. And I think that she could be quite misunderstood because of her strength and power, like so many. And I went to college in Boston, and I would go and visit the Museum of Fine Arts most Sundays, pretty hungover. And there was Kiki Smith's Lilith was right at the door.
You and I share a love of this piece. That piece, I saw it at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, so I wonder if it either traveled or if she made a couple versions of it. But that, like when I read that, I was like, Sarah, and you and I have so many other commonalities, which perhaps we'll unpack later. But I was like, that Kiki Smith piece of Lilith meant so much to me as a young person. And to read that, it meant something to you too. I was like, of course, Sarah and I are on this same wavelength. So tell me more. You encounter this beautiful piece and
I feel like, I mean, art is what reminds me that there's a divine presence.
yes,
That is proof of the divine. And even just spending some time with her, noticing that I was transfixed with her eyes whenever I would come into the museum, I knew what she was saying. I wasn't ready to hear it, but I knew what was going on. And I started this practice of devotion that was actually quite intuitive. And now I can see all of the ways that whether I was in acceptance of being a witch or not, I was always a witch, and I was always doing witchy things and witchy acts.
That right there, Sarah. Exactly.
And there was one part in the book that I really enjoyed, these acts of devotion I was doing like in the bushes of the Museum of Fine Arts. And I was trying to offer gifts to Lilith and hear her. And I remember this day like so viscerally, like kind of digging this hole. And I had these like just like ratty hair extensions that in my greatest partying I would like leave around, like so people could see like where I had been, and putting those extensions into I like unclipped one and like threw it in. I threw a cigarette in. I threw another cigarette in. I always had those like tiny bottles of wine in my bag. So I'm like pouring that disgusting like blush wine in,
Like
and
Sutter Homes.
yes,
or
that was
something.
it. And just my way of connecting with her. And then I abandoned that realm of, I mean, I wasn't sober, I was just struggling. And
Well, you were carrying little bottles of wine in your bag,
mean,
so I think we gathered.
yeah. And so, but then she kind of was like, she was always making her presence known. And I always noticed her in art and literature and just little sweet ways she would appear. And then in this round of recovery, I just remember being in this old bookstore. I just love like vintage bookstores.
The best.
So good. And I tripped over this book that had Lilith on the cover, and I was like, finally, like, okay, I hear you.
Yep.
And she was such a beautiful guide. And to be honest, like we really only truly worked together that first year.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was time to move into a new season with someone else.
Yes.
But I am so thankful for that year. I don't think there was any other deity that could have guided me in the way that I needed other than Lilith. And I just feel like she still winks to me, and I just think like her energy is so lovely. In my book, I included other deities that felt inspiring to me to kind of jumpstart some inspiration. But I feel like in any devotional work with deities, like see who's been appealing to you, who's been making their presence known, who gives you that feeling of like lighting you up.
Yes.
And which is funny, in 12 steps when we talk about sponsors, you look for someone who has what you want in recovery.
Okay.
And I've always thought of that as like also how you can look for a goddess to work with, or any spiritual deity, like who has what you want.
Yes.
Who can show you how to embody that.
Oh, that is so beautiful, Sarah. And I'm so glad you brought up the goddesses, because I wrote down the names of a couple that I had never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
And you include, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, a Greek goddess named Sophrosyne and her Roman counterpart, Sobrietas. I didn't know about them. What did you learn about those two?
So I have to be honest, there's not a lot.
Yeah.
And I really do think like some of the best creations we can make, or the inventions, is like we need to create what we want.
Yes.
And if you can't find what you want, like, why don't you create it?
That's right.
And so I remember thinking, I just felt so lost as I was embarking upon this fool's journey. And I tried to think about like, well, what kind of guidance did I need? Because I was just so out of my mind. And I feel like even just a little something about a list, something to give me. I'm a Virgo. I love a list. So,
and you love the Temperance card, which I think was a very Virgo card.
It is very Virgo. Yeah. And so I did a lot of research into what I could find as like, okay, let's start with what is sobriety? Like who is there that can really guide us? And there's not a lot that I could find, but I do believe that if you feel called to work with them, they're going to make their presence known. They're going to share their energy with you. I also think that, the opposite of addiction, I think, is community. So let a community come together and guide you. So it doesn't have to be just one energy that you're working with in the divine. There's a whole team here to support you and help you on the other side. And so I feel like also if anyone finds anything, please let me know because I'm always open to learning.
Yes. So you and I both share a love of the goddess Iris, the goddess of rainbows.
So good.
I mean, you are the rainbow witch. And one of the things I love about developing my practice of devotion with Iris is that there isn't a lot known about her.
Yeah.
And so I'm not beholden to tradition. And I don't think we ever really are. I think all of these practices are fluid and we can personalize them and evolve them. That said, it's kind of nice to not know who Sobrietas may have been in Roman times or how people might have given offerings to her. And that really leaves you to choose your own adventure and make your own devotional practice to her if you wish.
That's what I was thinking too, because that's inherently a fool's journey in itself.
Yes.
And I feel like one of the reasons I wanted to write this book was to affirm one's intuition. So it doesn't have to, your sobriety doesn't have to look like anyone else's.
That's right.
And your spiritual journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's. So who is anyone to say you're not connecting with Sobrietas correctly? Just, I think, trust yourself and trust the messages you're receiving and take a fool's journey with that one as well.
Yes. Gorgeous. Can I just shout out also, you talk about looking to real people on this side of the veil who you aspire to be like, and you bring up Florence Welch, one of the high supreme witches of Florence and the Machine, of course. Can you talk to me a little about what she means to you in this context?
Well, I think that we can't put the responsibility of sobriety on anyone else. Like, sobriety is your responsibility and yours alone. That's how I feel anyway. And I do feel like you never know what anyone else's journey is. We don't know what anyone else is facing. But I do think that it's lovely to be inspired by others' journeys. And I think that speaks to community. And I was just always such a fan of her music. And the way she is on stage always feels so powerful, so inherently witchy. Not even speaking to this new album, which is the witch album. But there is something that I found really inspiring about interviews I would read about her. And I know, I don't know what she's going through or what she's embarking upon. But seeing someone who I saw as so larger than life and creative in her expression, and when she would share about her sober journey in interviews, I think it's so vulnerable. She's such a presence. And I understand so many people don't share about their sobriety journey, and we aren't entitled to anyone's business.
Right.
But I was just hearing about how she felt so many feelings and sharing about stage fright and all of these ways I can totally understand needing to numb out. And being in a season of life where she wasn't was just so beautiful to me, because I really felt like I was like, how am I going to move through the world sober? But sometimes I think when we can see other people trying it or sharing their story, it reminds us that we're all fumbling through this human experience.
Yes. And I love that you chose her because she's a rock star. She's a fucking powerhouse rock star. And I think this is true of a lot of artists. And I think it's frankly true of all vocations, but artists in particular, I think there's this very toxic myth that we get fed, which is this myth that you have to suffer for your art, that there's a romantic connection between artists and alcohol or artists and drugs. And to see a rock star be that ecstatic and powerful and transcendent and successful, who has been sober, I would imagine was really eye-opening for you and lots of other people.
Oh, absolutely. Because I totally fell under the spell of tragedy and pain creating good art. And I do feel like those experiences in life absolutely provide inspiration, but we don't need to stay in it in order to create in that way. So to see someone who just was truly, in my eyes, being the fullest presence of their expression, sober, I mean, wow.
Wow. Big wow. Let's talk about rock music and music venues and circle back to the beginning of your book. Because, and you alluded to this earlier, the book starts with you in a music venue and you pass out. And then you come to and you have this kind of horrified moment where you're like, ugh, are people going to think I blacked out because I'm using again, I'm drinking again? And you had been sober at that time for a while and you hadn't been, correct? You hadn't been drinking. What actually happened to you in that moment? Why did you black out?
I was hit with so much all at once. I think I just short-circuited. And actually, even like backing up, even before that, I was in my hotel room getting ready. And I had this like flash that was like the potential of I was going to black out. And I sometimes, I don't know, the way my sensibilities work is like, I don't really get context. I just see the potential of what could happen.
Let me just like underscore this for listeners and people watching us. You are psychic.
Yes.
You get psychic information. And I mean, actually, why don't you describe how do you classify or qualify your gifts in this way?
So I'm receiving messages through all of my senses. I'm picking up on visuals. It's auditory. I can taste it. It's a sensation. It's like all of my senses are cranked all the way up. I'm receiving messages from others' emotions. People have passed on. And, you know, something that sobriety has taught me is boundaries. And I've gotten better boundaries in, I feel like, every aspect of my life, even energetic, but I'm still working on the energetic ones.
Yeah, boundaries in all realms. That's what we're going for.
So good.
Sometimes you're just like, ghosts, not today.
And so I did. And so sometimes I do feel like I can see what's happening or what the potential of what could happen, but I don't understand why. And so, and I was, you know, I had a lot in my mind as usual. We're all busy humans. And I was getting ready and, you know, having fun getting ready. I think like getting ready is kind of more fun than the actual thing usually. So I was just getting ready and it's like, oh, I could black out. Oh, I haven't really eaten enough today. I'm just going to eat a lot. So I was just like, you know, I was like really enjoying the hotel experience. There's room service. I'm having hummus and like veggies and a fruit plate. And I'm just like,
I love that that's your luxury. I was like, cheese and oysters and, you know, chocolate cake. You're like, hummus, veggies. All right, Sarah, you do you.
And I was like, oh, if I eat a lot, I won't pass out. And so I'm marching up to the venue and I could feel this like almost like magnetic field that was like, don't come in here. And I was like, and I've experienced that when I come in as a medium into different venues. There have been times where it's like, we don't really want you here. Or there's certain rooms or certain areas. And I feel like when I'm at work, I respect it. But in my personal life, I was like, I want to go to the rock show.
Right.
And like, you know, I was reconnecting with this ex I was still in love with. Like, I was like, I'm excited to see him. Like, I want to have fun.
Was he playing?
Yes. Yeah. And I was just like, and I was like, I'm going in here. And so I remember like just being like, just marching through and just like, I've got this. And it was kind of like, I had plenty of warnings and I just ignored all of them. I was like, I'm staying here. It got to one point where there was like a couch outside of the bathroom. I'm like laying on the couch. I'm laying on, I hate to admit this, I'm laying on the bathroom floor. I was really having a whole like callback to my drinking. And I was like, I just need to stay a little bit longer.
But you're totally sober this
Totally
time.
sober.
Okay.
Oh, totally sober.
Okay.
It was just all like
The triggers.
Just this like energetic heaviness.
Okay.
Where it's like, it's almost like all of my energy had been drained.
Oof.
And I felt really weak, but there is something in me that is quite stubborn sometimes. And I do feel like, I don't know, sometimes I think I'm moving through like psychic existential dread where I'm like, no, I'm going to have a normal life. It's Saturday night and I'm going to the rock show. And I would just like to do something normal and not deal with the spirit. I deal with the spirits like 24/7.
Right.
Can I just have my night off?
Yes.
And so I was like, I'm going to do this. And
Sarah.
and it's just, I mean, we really shouldn't betray our intuition, but
Facts.
you know, and like, what rock show is really worth this? But so it was just like everything hit me all at once. And it was like what was going on behind the bar, what was going on in the registers, what was going on with the guy I was seeing, what was going on with the other people in the room, what was and then the spirits of the space too. This was an old factory that's been turned into a music venue.
Okay.
And everything is just so.
Was this the knitting factory?
No, it was not.
Okay.
It was.
You don't have to tell me, but it's okay.
There was a lot to contend with.
Okay.
And I remember kind of the tipping point was I walked closer to the guy I was seeing, and there was a girl with him. And it was like, as soon as I stepped closer to her, it was like I could see all of the lies he had been telling me. And then it was mixed with everything else that was going on. And these spirits that kept being like, we don't want you to see what goes on here.
Right.
And I feel like it was just like almost like this energetic
whirlpool.
Yes. Filled with like old garbage that had just been there. Yes. And it's been enhanced by all the people coming and going, all of the alcohol, all of the music. And like no one had cleaned this place in like, I don't know, a century?
Probably literally, but also spiritually.
Yes.
Like no one was like taking incense and their herb bundles and smoking, giving it a smoke bath.
Definitely not. This place is in desperate need of that. And I just, it was like, it felt like my brain short-circuited, my eyes rolled back in my head, and I just dropped. And I wake up, and the security guard is arguing with my now ex, and I can hear him, like the security guard doesn't believe that I'm sober. And there's something like being sober is so important to me. So anyone, even a stranger thinking I'm not sober was deeply devastating in that moment. And I felt really vulnerable being on the floor. Everyone's looking at me, everyone's crowded around me, and they're arguing, and he's insisting that that I must be on something. I will also say no one Narcaned me, which that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about harm reduction education.
Yeah.
Is that I think it's so important to know about this, to have Narcan on you and to utilize it and to know how to use it.
Yeah.
But they had no problem blaming me and saying that I was clearly under the influence while doing nothing to support that. And that felt pretty, I mean, I felt so much shame.
Yeah.
And I hate that feeling of someone not believing me.
Of course.
And I do feel that, I feel like I don't need to prove my psychic abilities to anyone anymore. But there was, in that vulnerable state, I felt like no one's going to believe I had an energetic attack because I felt everything in this building, including the spirits. Like, that sounds wild.
Yeah.
And it's far easier to think that, like, I was drunk. And
sure.
And then I heard my ex say that I was just psychic. And I was like, oh, here we go. Like, I'm, somehow this has become worse.
This is so interesting to me, Sarah. First of all, I'm so sorry that happened.
Oh, it's okay.
But I also so appreciate you sharing that story because it seems to really encapsulate certainly like your sobriety journey, but also like your coming out of the broom closet or the sobriety closet in so many different facets of your life. This moment that you're in of being like, I am a witch, I am psychic, I'm a professional tarot reader, I'm sober. Like you're like really coming into the light with this book. And in doing so, I think you're going to empower and inspire so many other people who hold any of those identities or other identities that perhaps you or I don't hold, but that they're trying to grapple with and they're trying to make peace with and maybe bring into their own light too.
Oh, I hope so. That's really lovely to think about because I felt for so long that I couldn't be myself or I couldn't like share who I was for so many fears. And just being sober really reminded me like, I'm just so happy I'm alive and here. And
Yes.
I don't want to be anyone other than myself. And I understand I don't need to share all of this, but it really is who I am. So I like being able to share that and to be received. So thank you. And
Absolutely. I want to talk also about a framework that you use throughout the book that I've found so helpful in understanding the people in my life who struggle with addiction, which is this idea that oftentimes addicts are super sensitive beings and they're using substances or behaviors to numb that or soften that somehow. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think it's such a compassionate way of looking at addiction. I know some people say addiction's a disease. Maybe that's a helpful framework. I'm not here to say yes or no. I think it is for some people. I love the framework of like addiction is about trying to dull very sensitive feelings and emotions. I don't know, it just makes me feel so much tenderness towards people who struggle with these things.
well, it was something that I really found through my own experience and going through the 12 steps and understanding my motivations and how I got here and the behaviors I was acting on. And a lot of it really was just trying to protect myself because I'm so sensitive. And I feel like there are so many of us who are drawn to witchcraft and art and music and all of the many ways we can express our feelings because we're feeling so deeply.
Yes.
And being able to even look at my sobriety and my spiritual practice from a new perspective through writing this book, it really clicked in a new way where it's like, oh yeah, I'm like very sensitive. And this was what I thought was the easiest way to deal with it.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we grab what's closest or what we think is working, even if it's not. But I know that I was drinking and drinking from a young age to try to move through the world. And I like to think the world is becoming a kinder place for those of us who feel very deeply, but we're still navigating that road. And I think when we provide that compassion to ourselves and others, I think that's how we can really create change and new ways of understanding.
And you do it so beautifully. I have to bring up, and this is not a spoiler because you very clearly say, like, you're going to take us through the majors of tarot. So no surprise, we end up at the World card. And what I didn't realize when I was starting to read your book is, you know, you say you're going to take us through also the first year of your sobriety journey. I think you and I met in that first year. Is that correct?
We did, yeah.
And like there were parts of the book that you're talking about going to a coven meeting and, you know, I know you want to be, I'm not trying to like out anybody or anything, but I was like, I think I maybe was there.
Yes, you were.
And I'm like, this sounds very familiar. And you writing about the Seligman Center, I'm like, I think our paths crossed. I mean, we did that event with Kristen Soleil at the Seligman Center, but you might have been there for Jesse Bransford's show on another occasion too. But I was like, how amazing is it that during that first year, and you're making your way to the World card of integration, all these magical witchy things are happening for you. You start reading tarot professionally in that first year. You find your way to your soul sister, soul person, Anka. You find your way to a coven. Like all of these amazing things happen, which helped you become a more integrated world card unto yourself, would you say?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I mean, even looking back and when I was writing this book, I was like, wow, so much happened in that year. And I share a tarot reading that I received during that year when I was really struggling with some aspects of my life. And what had come through in the reading, part of it was just say yes to this transformation. And I think when we let everything change, everything changes. And I do believe that the universe is supporting us and providing opportunities to walk through doors, and they might challenge us and stretch us out of our comfort zones. But there is a lot here that's being provided. And it really, the way everything was able to line up, I really did feel like I stepped through the world in that year.
Yes.
The end.
Oh, it moves me so much. And it also moves me because when I first met you that year, like, I don't know, there was so much about you that resonated with me and felt so familiar. Obviously, we have our New Jersey witch connection.
So good.
We said this many years ago when you were on the show, but you and I grew up a town apart from each other. We did not know each other. We went to the same mall.
I know. I know.
I mean,
it's wild.
We went to the same, mall occult shop.
Yes.
And you are someone who loves art and magic. We've talked in the past before about all of your curatorial successes and your experiences of putting together art shows and integrating art and magic together. We're both witches. Like, I feel such a kinship with you. And this idea that, I don't know, that perhaps we would never have met is so wild to me because it feels like we were so fated to be in each other's lives. And I say that with such a grateful heart.
Aww.
But I didn't know all of this, Sarah. I didn't know this whole journey you were on. So it's been a gift not only as a general reader and researcher, but as your friend to learn more about you. So I am so grateful that you wrote this on all those different levels.
Well, that feels so good to hear. Well, and sobriety has taught me how to share about how I feel, how to admit when I need help, to say I'm struggling. But I think, to be honest, that year it was hard to always even admit to myself how challenging it was. And so I do believe time is a spiral, healing is a spiral, the fool's journey spirals.
Yes.
So there is something healing too, to be able to have time and space away from that and to be able to share in a way now. And
yes,
it feels really, as much as it's been terrifying to share, it's actually feeling far more like good and exciting, and it's time.
Yeah, it's such a courageous thing to do, and it's such a generous thing to do because, as I said earlier, you're going to help so many people, and I am just so excited for them to read this book. Before we start to wind things down, I just want to do a final check-in about where you are in your sobriety journey and how magic is continuing to support that. Because as you said, these journeys are spirals. I don't know if you want to put a number to how many years you've been sober or whatever, but where are you at in your sobriety journey? Or maybe a better question is like, how do you feel about it today in this moment?
Oh, I feel so proud to be sober. It's the greatest accomplishment of my life. I really, as I said earlier, it's like everything good in my life is because I am sober and I'm a witch. And it is funny. I don't need to think of the days anymore, but what is funny, my rock bottom was 9 years ago. Like, right. It could even be this week.
Wow.
And then I went on this journey. My sober birthday is in April. April will be 9 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is like wild. And sobriety is so important to me still, but it manifests in different ways. Like, I feel like in that first year, I was always thinking about, like, I am sober. Like, just like, and that was like really at the top. Like, I'm not really thinking like I'm sober anymore. But then I'm like, oh yeah, I am. And so I really do feel like sobriety gives you the opportunity to have a life that's beyond sobriety. So I do feel like it's there, and I'm still very dedicated to my sober community and being a part of that and the interconnection. And I still have a sobriety altar in my home.
Do?
Absolutely.
How has it changed?
Now it's more focused on community. It's a real 11 step if you read the book.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Are there any final thoughts or messages that you feel called to share before we close?
Wow, it's just been such a pleasure to be here with you and to share this book with you. And I really hope that if anyone takes anything from this, I hope it's that it's okay to be sensitive, and there's nothing wrong with feeling things very deeply or in a very big way. And it's actually like a beautiful gift you can share with the world. Just being yourself and being sensitive, and show yourself some kindness and compassion, because it's not an easy way.
So splendid. Well, once again, this is Sober Magic by Sarah Potter. It is such an exquisite book for anybody, but especially folks who are sober curious or in their sobriety journey. There are tarot cards that you talk about. There's also a lot of rituals and spells. And I mean, it's just like a grimoire for taking care of oneself and loving oneself. And I think it's just a masterpiece, Sarah. I'm so dazzled by it. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm just so happy for you. And I'm so happy to know you. And I have to give you a hug.
Aww,
I'm really
I love
just
you.
so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
Sweetheart, people are going to want to know how they can work with you. They're going to want to get tarot readings from you, I'm sure. And you do public rituals and all kinds of teaching and workshops. Please tell the good people how they can get more of your magic.
Please stay in touch. I would love to connect with you. I love Instagram. That's like such a good visual spell. It's I am Sarah Potter, Sarah with an H.
And your Instagram is so colorful and artful and beautiful. And you're a wonderful writer. You write articles, lots of different places as well. This book is beautifully written. And your Instagram posts are really beautifully written, which is not true of most people. Anyway, sorry.
So good to hear.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm gushing too much, but keep going. Keep
Oh,
going.
I receive it. Thank you. So good. I'm having fun on Substack. I send out Tarotscopes and spells every week. We align with the moon. It's so fun. I love it over there. It's like an old school like live journal. And
that's it. It's like I miss
Right?
blogs so much, but it feels between like Substack and podcasts and Instagram, we're sort of getting in that world
I think
again.
we're there almost. And I do lead full moon rituals in Asbury Park, New Jersey. I need a reason to go back to New Jersey once a month. So please join me at the Asbury Hotel under the stars. It's so fun. I try to turn it into a full experience with music. And I would love to read for you if you'd like to book a reading. My calendar is online. And there's so many ways we can connect. I'm celebrating this book virtually as well as in person. So just follow me on Instagram and you'll see all the good things, all the ways we can be magical together.
Fabulous. Sarah Potter. Thank you so much for doing this. I love you so much and congratulations.
Thank you. I love you too so much. This has been such a pleasure.
Yay!